Hey guys, welcome back to Clueless Crafts. Today I'm going to be making a seal clay jar. I'll also give you a few examples of other animal jars I've made. And if I sound different today, it's just because I got my wisdom teeth out yesterday and I don't have full motion of my mouth. But anyway, let's just get into it. I'm starting out with this jar I got from the dollar store just for $1.25. I'm just taking off the sticker and the handle. I'm also using some sculpey clay I haven't used before. It's Sculpey 3 and I just got a big pack of white clay. First I'm taking a piece off and rolling it into a tube, applying some liquid Sculpey to the base of the jar, and I'm just filling in this kind of dip it has at the bottom. Then I'm taking a lot more liquid Sculpey and applying it to the sides of the jar with a popsicle stick. Then I'm just placing a bunch of rolled out pieces of clay and blending them together roughly with my fingers. It doesn't need to be perfect since we'll be adding texture onto it. Same thing for the top rim, liquid Sculpey and rolled out clay around it. Blending out with your fingers, cutting off any excess, and moving on to the bottom of the jar. Covering the bottom is not necessary, but I just like a solid piece. Once I'm done finger blending, I'm just taking a big ball-pointed tool and blending further. Then I'm starting to add extra pieces of clay around where those glass nubs were to hide that they were ever there. So I'm choosing this side of the jar to be the front, so this nub is going to be disguised as the bottom lip. I'm also adding a larger chunk to what is going to be the back of the seal, and this will just be kind of like part of its fur texture. More blending. These clay jars always require a lot of blending. But now that that's done, I'm taking some tin foil and shaping it into a kind of half banana shape. I don't know. Shape it like a seal tail. And I'm just removing some extra clay where I want to place it, putting down a layer of liquid Sculpey, and just sticking that tail right on there. Adding more liquid Sculpey onto the aluminum foil, and then covering that with layers of rolled out clay. Now none of this is perfect, it's going to look like crap for a lot of it, and the secret to a good project is blend, blend, blend. A lot of blending I did off camera, but it was definitely worth it because it makes it look like one solid piece and it brings the whole jar together. Now that I got most of the tail blended, I'm cutting out some fin shapes for the front, just rolling out a tube of clay, then cutting in half and tapering the ends, and cutting the thick side on a slight angle so it'll fit better onto the body. Make sure to blend those into the clay, both the top and the bottom. Now I'm just taking my big ball-pointed tool and giving some texture to the entire body. Now it is time to go into the oven at 275 for 20 minutes. Make sure when you're baking with glass, you put it in the oven cooled, preheat it while it's in the oven, and let it cool down once it's done baking. Now after baking, there was a small tragedy. A bunch of cracks showed up on my jar. I'm assuming because the temperature was higher than the other clay I've used, that it made the glass expand more, therefore creating more cracks. It could have also been caused by the amount of liquid Sculpey I added. Seeing how that creates a strong layer of glue between the glass and the clay, it doesn't give a lot of room for movement, which could have caused the cracks as well. Maybe a combo of both. But no matter, if this happens to you, I'll show you an easy way to fix it. But before I do, I just want to move on to the head so I don't accidentally mess up my fixing of the cracks by touching the body when sculpting the head. So let's get going on this head, shall we? I'm taking another piece of aluminum foil and shaping it into a ball using my water bottle to condense it as much as I can, and making sure it's slightly smaller than the opening of the jar. Then I'm covering that with liquid Sculpey and covering that with rolled out layers of clay. Then I'm just taking that in between my hands and rolling it until all of the pieces are blended. Now fitting that on top of the jar, it just fits perfectly, which is what I wanted. Now I'm just placing a rim of clay all the way around, and this is going to indicate the edge of the outside of the lid. When I place that back on the body, you can kind of see what I mean more. And this is the point in time where I run out of clay. I used up the entire block to get to this point. Luckily I have a couple pieces of white clay from other clay kits, so I'm just gonna use the rest of this to finish it up. But just a heads up, you might need more clay than you think you do. But now you got the basic shape of the head, it's time to blend all the edges together. So I'm looking at the edge of the body and I'm putting a whole bunch of clay on the edge of the head to make sure that the two pieces are blended nicely and continue as one piece when put together. Just cutting off any excess edges, and I'm taking off the lid to just blend a bit of the underneath so it looks more like one piece. Finally, we're working on the seal's face, so I'm just taking 2 balls of white clay and molding them into its snout, just blending all the edges into the face. And a smaller white ball of clay into a triangle for the seal's nose. I'm taking a medium ballpoint tool to carve out the eyes, and I'm just taking off the top again since we are now going to fix up all the cracks. So I'm just taking some liquid sculpey and applying it with a popsicle stick, then blending it out with my fingers. I'm trying not to go over the actual crack, but just blend down from the crack and then blend up. For any bigger cracks you have, I suggest using liquid sculpey and a little tube of clay, and just kind of squish the clay onto the crack and use the liquid sculpey to blend out the edges. And I just did that for all the cracks I could see. Once that's all done, it's time to put the head back on, and to make sure that the head and body don't accidentally meld together, I'm just putting a layer of parchment paper underneath, so this will make sure that once it's baked, it'll be easy to take off. I also added some black balls of clay for the eyes, and it was now ready to go back into the oven. Again for 20 minutes, putting into a cool oven and taking it out once the oven is cool again. And it's back from the oven and looks like all the cracks are basically gone, and anything that's left will be easily covered with paint. So I'm just taking some white paint and applying that to the entire seal's head and body, just to make sure that any dark spots or dirt pieces are covered up and it all looks nice and flush. Just some highlights on the eyes, and painting the snout gray, using a darker gray and painting that on the nose. And I'm also painting the bottom lip the same light gray as the top. Once the face is painted, your seal is now done and it's looking super cute. This is the finished product, and if you guys want more inspiration, I also made 2 others before I made my YouTube channel, so unfortunately there's no film of it, but I thought I'd add them in anyway, just to show you some different techniques. This is a bear I made. I made the snout part of the glass nib sticking out. And for this fox jar, I hid the nibs in his little fur sticking out from the side of his face. Anyway, that's all I have for you guys this week. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, be sure to leave a like or comment down below. And I'll see you guys in next week's video. Bye!